Yeah, hello guys, how are we doing today? I kind of want to quickly do a short tutorial of one of the images that I uploaded on my social media, and it got a little engagement, and I got to know that people actually want me to do tutorials about how I got that. So it's going to be a quick one. Let's look at what we're going to do here. Now I've already had a scene set up, so I don't really want to. What I have is just a plane, which I'm going to call the floor. I have my camera. If I go out of my camera, you see I'm out. I have a sphere object that I added an HDRI texture to, then everything is in my scene. So if you notice, my layout is kind of different, and I purposely have this just because of my texture purpose. This tutorial is all about texturing, so I don't really need the animation bar and other things. And if you notice something, if I double click on my material, instead of me having the pop-up, I already have it here. And the reason why I'm doing that is so that as I'm texturing or changing some things, I'll be seeing what I'm doing in real time, and I don't have to be moving windows around. So that is why I have this setup. So basically what I did was to rearrange some of the panels and all that, then save that as a layout here. But then I'm going to include this file, this layout file, in my description. I'm going to send a link to how you can download that in the description. So let us go into the tutorial and see how we can texture the floor. Alright, so the first thing we're going to do is we're going to drag this material on the floor and call this floor. Then once you have that, if you come down to this, I'm making use of wood texture from Polygon. That is what I used, and what you need to do is make sure you select everything. You can decide to choose what resolution you want. I use 3K, and also make sure you select everything here. Now you have to have an account and sign in before you can download. Right now I have get started. If I had signed in, you will see download here, and that is what you're going to get. Alright, and another thing I used here is to make use of some scratches and grunge maps. So you could just go to YouTube, for instance, Google rather, then you can go to scratches texture, then this comes up. So you go to the image section there. So what I do normally is to go to tools, then size, then I can search by size. So if I say maybe I want 3K, I can just come to this value. You can have 3K above, but I use for this is what I use for MP, so just like 2K above. And I downloaded some texture. I remember downloading this and another scratch texture. I think this scratch texture is inside here also, but what you need to do is make sure the texture you're downloading is it has black and white value, because we are going to be using it in the displacement channel, and the displacement channel works well when you have black and white value, not really gray value. So that is just pretty much what I did. So if I go to color, I want to plug in the color, so go to the color texture and add it here. So I already have a color. If you notice, this color is not really visible, so I can just scroll down in the color editor, go to editor, change the texture preview size to no scale, so I can have more detail. And also go to this color, then go to the attribute, just click on this texture tag here, go to the attribute, change the scale. So let's say 40 by 40, maybe 30. No, 30 might be too much. 40 should be fine. I think this is alright. So we have that. So that is for the texture I'll go back to the material editor. That's for this texture. Another thing is to activate my normal or my displacement. So for the normal, I need to plug in the normal value, but then when you're plugging in, make sure you use the 16-bit value. You have two normals, so you need to use the 16 bits. This gives you more accurate value than the normal 8-bit channel or texture. So I'll drag in the 16-bit here. So I have the texture. If I go to the displacement, I also need to drag in the displacement. Then I have two displacements texture we have for the normal 8-bit and 16-bit. So I'm going to drag the 16 here, and so we have that displacement. So what you need to do is go to your texture. I've already had this set up, so what I did was to change from standard to physical. Then under the physical, I made it fixed low, and change subsurface, because I'm not going to be having subsurface. Change this one to 1, and that is what I did here. Then for my global illumination, I have my radiance and change it to light. Then here, instead of medium, I change this to custom sample, then reduce this value to a particular value that I want. So you could also come to this radiance cache. I change this from medium also to custom, then this is the medium. Then I change it to low rather, then change this value from -1 to 0 and that to 2. Then for this light mapping, you don't have this checked, then I have it checked. So that's just it. Then coming to the option, don't always forget my tutorials. I need to deactivate this and the default light. Then this was initially in 0.1. I change this to 3. Depth and these two values were initially at 15, so I changed that to 10. So for me to have everything, just hold down Control and press Enter. It affects both, provided two of them are highlighted. So for me to highlight, just click, hold down Control, click on the other one. Then if you select any value, hold down Control to press Enter, it affects them. So that is pretty much the settings that I have here. So you close that. So let's go to the texturing process. So we're done with these displacements and the normal. So the next thing will be done here. So I'm going to remove the default specular and add the GGX. I kind of realized that GGX worked better for me, or you could put in, if you use Beckman, it works, but doesn't really give me the actual effect that I'm looking for. So what I did was to change to Beckman and have the effects. So the first thing is change the Fresnel type to dielectric, then come down and change this IOR value to 1.8. It becomes more reflective, so don't worry about that. So if I go to my roughness, if I click on the roughness, I have a roughness value, and now if I scroll this up, you see that the reflection gets broken off, and it's like you have this reflection being roughened off. So I need to bring in my texture, but then I have glossiness texture, and gloss just works like an inverse of roughness. So for me to plug in this glossiness to this roughness, I need to invert this, and that's the good thing about Cinema 4D. You can invert it in Cinema 4D. So if I drag this here, it gets added, then I can go into the roughness channel, or just outside that, sorry. So if I go to the roughness, I can just click on this and add a colorizer, and this colorizer will allow us to, it does two things actually. It allows you to create the contrast of whatever you're working on, can you see, and also invert by right clicking the invert knob. So it gives me the inverse of what I had before. So that's for the roughness. Then I'm going to do the same thing for my specular. I need to add my, for my reflection strength, I need to add the reflection. So I'm going to go to the reflection, drag the reflection here. As soon as I do that, everything goes away, and it's because I need to do the same thing for this reflection. I need to invert it. So go to colorizer, click, bring this out, change this to white, and right click and invert node. Then we're back to the initial position we were. But then if I bring this up, I have the specular strength up. Then I can also bring up this roughness, right? So we have this roughness, but then you don't get to have good results if I'm to do a test render. If I click here now, I change the output value, I reduce this so that my render will be fast. So if I do a quick render and I'll be back, you can see what we're going to have. We're going to have a problem, then I'll tell you how to resolve that. So I'll be back after this. Alright, so you can see what we have. I'm not really getting the effect that I want, and the reason why I want you to always do a render to picture viewer is because the viewports kind of give you the result you have at the viewport is not really what you're going to get here. So I think it works, it gives you an inverse of the actual result you get for this. So what I'm going to do is change the attenuation from average to additive. Then let's do another render and see what we're going to have. So you can see what we have. This is the last render, this is the new render. So we already have that. So now that we have this, we can start breaking up that reflection. And for us to break up the reflection, we have to go back to the roughness. We have to add in the grunge texture that we downloaded online on Google search. So but before you do that, you have to make this into a layer, open up the layer, then we can bring the grunge texture that we want here. So the ground texture is here, and it has to be on top of that. So now it's covering the whole thing, so you can see it here, but don't be fooled with this. You change this value to add, so that gets added to this. So you might want to down this value so it doesn't get too intense. Just let it come up a little bit, like dirt on the floor. So let's do another render and see what we have. Then once I'm done with this, I'll be back. Okay, so we are here. I have that and we have this. We don't really have much of a difference here, do we? No. So what we need to do is we need to go back to this texture, bring it up. See, we have everything 100%. Then maybe we will go in and add in more white so it breaks that up even more. And let's do another test render and let's see what we have. Okay, so I must say I'm not really getting what I want. I'm not really impressed with what I have here. So we could still see this. That is better. Bring that up. Okay, so let's come to this texture. We're still going to look at everything together. Let's come to the displacement. We need to bring this down 0.5, and oh, we added the displacement but we didn't subdivide this. That I think that will cause some problems. So let's subdivide this geometry and see what we have with this. So I'm going to render this, and I'm going to fast forward this and see what we have. We have that, and we have this. Notice this was up and this comes down a little bit. Then we have the displacement set, but then I'm not getting these lights that I want, so I think we should just go to this and look for another HDRI and see what we're going to have. So drag this HDRI here, or maybe I could just create a sky itself and not use this object. Putting the HDRI on the sky and disable this. For this HDRI that I've added, I can come here, enable area lights, GI area lights, and no scaling, and I'm going to try to see what I can do to this. But before I start doing that, let's work on the displacement of this texture and add the scratches on this floor so we can have that then. But then I can also move this so that I can have this effect even more, so that we can see where I'm trying to change my location. Possible that point, that part doesn't have the effects, so maybe this location does. So let's try that. So we'll go to the displacements, make it a layer just like we did for the roughness, so we can bring in the scratches that we downloaded under the imperfection. Bring in this here, let it be at the top, then we screen that to take off the white. But then everywhere you have white color under displacement, it bulges out, but what we want to have is a cutting in. So this will not work. We need to change this line. We need to find a way to change the line to black and have the black to be white. So if you right click on this, you can see invert image, so that will work. Then we can now change this one. Instead of screen, we can now change it to white, because multiply takes away white and leaves that. So we can bring this down a little bit so that we can have this object, so you can already see this cut in. So maybe I still want to add in another, so not wood texture, another scratch. So maybe this scratch is fine. So we can do the same thing to this scratch, invert that, then make this multiply. So we have 2 levels of scratches on that object, on that floor actually. Then we have every other thing set. So let's do this render and see what we get. Okay, so we are not getting much of a light here, so I need to look for where we are going to get light to interact with that. So I think we need to change our view this way, because light is coming out from this point, so that we can have, see the reason why we can't see anything, because we are actually at the position where the light is. So I think this should give us more of the grunge texture, if I am right. So your positioning also matters, but where you're standing also matters in order to see all these grunge and tears and imperfections. So let's try and do another render at this position whereby we have the light coming out and see what we get. Okay, so we see that we are having a light interaction here, but we can't see the grunge, and I think to solve that, that will be done here in the roughness. So we need to make sure the roughness is right here. So maybe we actually need to invert this back. Let's try and see what we get if we invert that and go to this image that we have here. Oh, we need to push this image. I didn't push this image. Before we even do any inversion, let's try and work with this and see what we get. Then if we don't get a good result, then we can go back and invert. So we should come back here and take this back to the initial position. Yes, so we now have this white, so we can bring this down a little bit. Now if that doesn't work, we can then try and invert that and see what we get. Alright, so I am starting to get the break compared to this. You can start to see the effects, tearing of this object. So two things happens here: the position of the lights and also the grunge text that I added to this object. So if I'm to bring this, make it more white, you have more of the break here. I'm trying to exaggerate this so that I can see that. So, and I also would try and move my position somewhere here. I don't want to be directly in front of the lights, so we can go to the HDRI and rotate the HDRI so that we can have something like this. You have the lights coming from there, and so let's try and do this, render, and be back. Alright, so you can see I exaggerated that, changed the direction, so you can already see these effects, but the reflection is much. So this is pretty much how I did that, and I'm sorry this is taking longer than I expected. I was trying to see if I could use less time to do that, so I'm going to reduce this reflection so I don't have much of reflection, and also the specular. I feel the specular is also much, so we can reduce the specular also. And I'm doing my final set on this object, and then I'm going to go to the, so let's bring this up. Also I'm trying to exaggerate this so we can all see what we have. Okay, so I have that. Maybe I want to do the same thing I did here on this normal. So what I can do is select this, right click, copy channel. I can go to the normal, make this into a layer, go into the layer and paste. And don't forget, I need to invert that image, then multiply, so we have this. Okay, we're going to get back here, so I'll come back to this, do the same thing for this other one. Right click, copy the channel, go to the normal, go into this place, paste. So this is coming here, right click on it, invert image, so we have that. So I'm trying to get the same value, so this is to multiply, then I change this to 74 and 80. So come back here, 74, 80. I want to have the same proportion. So this image, I'm going to change this one also to multiply. So I have that. So I don't want to have this black, so I'm going to right click here, go to effects, adding it to a normalizer. So maybe we'll change this back to add. Okay, let's just undo that. I think this is fine. We could just bring this down. What if we multiplies? What if we overlay this also? Okay, that doesn't seem to solve that. Multiply, and let's bring this down a little bit. Okay, I think this is just what we need to do. Just bring this down until we have a little bit of that. I think this is fine. So we're going to go to the render setting and do a final render. So I'm going to up this, just leave this, make this 300, but in your case you can take it to full resolution. And okay, let's just do ×2 of this, and here in my global animation I'll come to this general sample, change this ×4 ×2, then I want to brighten this up a little bit. This is at the settings that I have, then come in here and I will leave that. Go to the physical setting, change this from fixed to adaptive and this to automatic. Alright, so we can bring this to 10 or even lower. I think that is pretty much it. So I'm going to do a render and pause that. Then once the render is out, I'll be back and see whether we get a better result from what we've been having so far. Alright guys, you can already see the scratches that are added to the floor. You see that, but then my grunge, if you go into this place, you see the effect of the grunge is not really pronounced. Some part is not reflective and some is reflective and all that. And then you can also see the tear that I have on this object. So that is pretty much how you can create all these imperfections to this object and all that. And I hope you are able to get something out of this, and if you have, I'm really glad you could. And please do subscribe to my channel and like. Thank you very much. Do have a wonderful day. Bye.